TalkTainmentRadio.com.
We give you a reason to come.
The world's greatest radio.
We give you a reason to stay.
Radio the way it should be heard.
You got the power.
The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guests and not necessarily those of TalkTainmentRadio.com, 3MR Production, its ownership, management, or staff.
We've got the power.
This is The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio. Radio the way it should be heard. And now, Mr. Neely Fuller.
If you do not understand white supremacy, which is racism, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. Only confuse you. Only confuse you.
This is The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, radio the way it should be heard. I'm Brother Kahari, sitting in every Wednesday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, with Mr. Neely Fuller, author of two of the most definitive works on race ever. Two of the most definitive works. It sets a whole new concept of how we should think about this, how we should deal with it, and recommendations for what to do on a day-to-day basis. If you want to get a copy of Mr. Fuller's two definitive works, short-term textbook for victims of white supremacy and the Word Guide, all you'd have to do, you might see them, the first one having a little bit more title than that, but it's well known as the textbook for white supremacy. You go to producejustice.com. Produce Justice, you type it in as one word, producejustice.com, and you follow the prompts that will show you how to order and get both of these books. Joining me live from Washington, D.C., the nation's capital, every week at this time, Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr. Mr. Fuller, how are you, sir?
I'm still learning.
Mr. Fuller, we've got a lot that we have to cover, but let me open up with you. Let me see if there's anything pressing on your mind. I want to get to Trayvon Martin and a number of other issues, but I want to know, is there anything pressing heavily on your mind that you want to go into before we get into some of the other things that we're going to discuss? Mr. Fuller.
Well, I think the major thing right now among black people is that perennial thing we always have, and that's black people out here killing each other and doing things to each other. And that should stop. Black people should seriously think about that. And the gang banging, that's one thing. And then the fourth or fifth string robbery and theft. We need to be beyond that by now. Robbing the corner drugstore and that type of thing. The delicatessen. Small jewelry stores, mom and pop places and all like that. Just going in, two or three fellas, and jumping over the counter. Those images on television, just over and over and over again, and running down the street with stuff spilling out of their pockets. We consider that big time. That is mass stupidity. We shouldn't even be known for that type of thing anymore, at all. In fact, when law enforcement people come around and see stuff strewn all over the floor in some delicatessen, and the owner out there pointing in the direction of the way that they ran. Two or three of them jumped in a car with hoods over their heads. That image should stop all over the world of black people. The law enforcement people should be able to say by now, well, there's one thing we're pretty sure of. No black people did any of this, because they don't do that stuff anymore. They don't do stupid stuff anymore. All of that stuff is stupid. It's a one-way ticket. After three or four of those incidents, two or three of the so-called brothers get together and decide they're going to knock off someplace and whatnot, and they all wind up wearing the orange jumpsuits or whatever the jumpsuits are in the location where they happen to be. And they're shuffling along, and they're talking to each other about, well, they got me this time, and I'm going to be doing, hard time this time because I had to shoot the MF, and, and I didn't intend to, but, he should have turned loose to the money. That type of nonsense being discussed in a cell block should be long a thing of the past by now. Not on the basis of some standards of civics or so-called morality or even what the priests and preachers say. Just on the basis of it being a poor way to get through your existence. It's a sorry way. I mean, street robberies and snatching pocketbooks on the bus stops and that type of thing. At any age 16 even, and whatnot, where we say, well, I mean, somebody at 16 years old might do something like that. No. And people who do that by now shouldn't be welcome anywhere. I'm just going to say it flat out. Their grandmothers should say, don't come here. In fact, I've heard at least one lady said that's one of the first things that she taught all of her young offspring, male offspring. She said, now, you can call me from the school if you have a little problem with the teachers or with the counselors or something. And be sure and call me if there's any problem. And if you're out on the playground, I mean, and there's a dispute with the coach or something like that, when you're playing basketball or something, and it kind of gets out of hand, be sure and call me. Or you had a fight with some of the other students and whatnot, be sure and call me. I mean, I want to get involved in that immediately. She said, but if you call me from the jailhouse and you did it, I'm hanging up the phone. Don't ever call me from the jailhouse for something that you did. Ever. I'm telling all of you that right now, early on, because I don't know you. Don't want to hear from you. If you did it. Now, if you didn't do it, I'll rush over there big time. But if you did it, don't ever call me. And she said it worked. She said she let them know that before they ever got in trouble. Now, that might be a formula all the time, all the way down the line. Why wait until all these things happen? And then we get all involved and whatnot and blah, blah, blah and all like that. Because, and people do say, justifiably so, that there are law enforcement officers out here who have ill intent. They're not really police officers, according to what I've written. If you don't have the correct intentions, you are not a police officer. You are an imposter. And there's a lot of imposters out here. People who pretend to be people who believe in justice, but they don't. They're just gangsters with guns and uniform who was able to get on law enforcement forces.
I had the same thing happen to me the other night. One gets behind you, one pulls up beside of you, in an attempt to try to intimidate. Well, the way I looked at it, I just said, hey, thank you for the escort. I appreciate it. Because I come out of here sometimes real late at night. That's the way I look at it. I appreciate it. You understand? I mean, you're not going to catch me up in that nonsense. Right.
Don't and see, because they don't have the basic requirement for being a law enforcement officer in a just society. Of course, we don't have that. But the basic requirement should be not arrest techniques, not how to pick out someone who's suspicious, not how to do this and all of the calisthenics that go with law enforcement. The basic requirement, and the number one thing they should teach in police schools, is when you come in here, the first thing you bring with you in here, at the top of your resume, is that you have the correct intentions. Just 2 words. Correct intentions. Otherwise, you don't have any business in here discussing anything. Firearms techniques, arrest techniques, fingerprinting, none of the rest of it. It doesn't matter. If you come in here and you want to be a law enforcement officer, if you don't have the correct intentions, don't come to this door. Don't come anywhere around this academy. Period. We want you out of here. In fact, don't come anywhere within a block of this place. Is that clear, ladies and gentlemen? That should be the first thing announced in every law enforcement school. The first thing that you bring with you, along with your paperwork and your resumes and whatnot, is I have the correct intentions. my intentions are correct.
And as we look at all of that, it's just so many things that we have to deal with. We just had a situation here in the city of Columbus. I don't know if you're familiar with it or not, where I know you know about Juneteenth, where they have an annual Juneteenth festival. And every year, Mr. Fuller, at this festival, there's some violence. This year, it got, I guess, sort of out of hand, where young people were on the Saturday, they were shuffling and arguing and jagging back and forth with each other, and they got into some tussles. And then one young man, 15 years old, pulls out a gun, shoots it. We don't know where he was shooting it, but he shoots a 10 or 11-year-old child in the leg. And so what they did, they shut down the whole festival. The whole festival. And you had the biggest day was the following day on Sunday. They shut it down. And of course, there's been a lot of talk back and forward about it. But we saw the same things down in New Orleans just a couple of months earlier in May, where 19 people were shot. I mean, just insanity, Mr. Fuller. It looks like we're just coming totally apart with this madness. What's going on out there, Mr. Fuller?
Well, I have been saying, and I'll reiterate it, if you can't guarantee that people are going to have constructive intentions, anytime you go anywhere, everyone who is on the scene, particularly where it comes to black people, because we are all been loaded with poison. We have to realize that. We have a certain amount of hostility toward each other. We have to recognize that. You can get on a bus and you can almost feel the hostility if that bus is crowded with black people. I mean, you can just feel it. You can just feel that, that there's vibes. It's not harmonious at all. It's not pleasant at all. I mean, when you get where you're going, you're anxious to get off of there. I mean, you can just feel something, even with no one saying anything, because there's all this hostility. The way you can see it in people's eyes, you can see it in their body language and whatnot. And this has always been, going back, I'll say, starting with right after World War II in particular. Because before World War II, you had the signs up in a lot of places. Rear seat for colored. White section only. And so that kept black people kind of on their toes and a little bit of affinity for each other, because even when they got on a bus, they were reminded that they were nothing, that you are nobody. Get to the back and don't step on any white people's feet on your way there, or you just might be dead. That's how you might spend your morning in the morgue. So you understand that, you boys and girls. You boys and gals, you nothing people, you Negroes. You shouldn't even be on the bus. You should be honored to even get on the same bus with white people. So that kept black people kind of looking at each other and saying, well, maybe we should have a little bit of affinity for each other, rather than nowadays when the signs are down, and have long been down, we got on a bus with complete hostility. Total hostility. We ought to think about that. Someone says good morning to you. I mean, you look around, as if to say, what you saying good morning to me for? I mean, might be a good morning for you. Ain't no good morning for me. You don't know nothing about my life. I'll cut your throat. But that type of hostility, in their minds at least. They know who they are. We know who we are. We know we're like that, and we ought to stop it. I'm not saying we need to everybody get on there and come by and start hugging each other. I'm just saying just have a little bit of civility, a little bit of understanding. All you're trying to do is just get through the day. Everybody's on that bus, just trying to get where they have to go. Think about that, and stop being hostile just for the sake of hostility. Every time you see black people get together nowadays, I mean, we're trying to figure out a way to start something that's hostile. Starting with sometimes just with the older people, just petty gossip. Trying to pick at each other. And the younger people are just completely gone.
Mm-hmm.
And nothing but I'm going over here and bust a cap in somebody. You know, just so that I can get some attention. I can get my 5 minutes worth of fame. And get my mug shot. Get my street creds. Okay, so you get your street creds, you get your mug shot. What are you going to do with it? Is that going to make you something? And something like what? I mean, when is the big money going to start coming from all of these street creds? Because a whole lot of the people who started off getting their street creds in what you call hip-hop, little by little, they start saying, hey, this can lead one of two ways, what I'm doing, with the songs that I'm singing. Now, it can lead to an early grave, like it did with a whole lot of hip-hoppers. You know, they had a little flash in the pan, and they were dead in a short period of time. Or I can kind of ease into the corporate world, which the smart ones did, and you can name who they are. They no longer did the stuff that they were singing about. They went and got the big money by moving over into, by different labels and whatnot. Some people might call it semi-R&B, or, they got different labels in the music field and whatnot, rhythm and blues,
Right. The Jay-Z's of the world. I know exactly who you're talking about.
Well, I won't name anybody specifically because I'm not that familiar with all the people. But I do notice that a lot of people who started off with the real rough stuff, saying that the way for black people to make it in life is to go out here and run them down the alley all day shooting people.
Right.
I mean, but then they may have started out that way in their own lives, but oddly enough, if anybody hadn't noticed, they stopped doing it. Okay? And the next thing you know, they're riding around in limousines and whatnot. Now, how did that happen? Well, it looks like somebody might have gotten smart, because I don't think that running up and down the alley all day shooting people is going to get you very much in the world other than a lot of grief. I've never seen anything come out of it but that. A lot of grief. If you love grief, then go ahead and do that. But if you want something different, I think you better start thinking about something else, because it's very poor pay. Very poor pay. It's not a profitable business at all.
It's something to think about and something to look at, because we've got a lot of stuff. Mr. Fuller, if I want to get your book, how do I get a copy of your book?
You can get it by going to your computer and punching in producejustice.com. And what will come up on the screen is a brief description of a textbook workbook for thought, speech, and or action for victims of white supremacy. And that's the basic book. And then there's an additional book called a compensatory counter-racist codified word guide. It has words in it that you should use, words that you shouldn't use, just in everyday conversation, and words to think about not using. And if you do use them, you use them in a very specific way. And words to ask about when other people use them, because a lot gets lost in translation, and it affects the way that your entire life will turn out, particularly in job situations, et cetera, et cetera.
All right. We've got a lot more to cover on the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller. I want you to stay right there. And if you want to hear or get involved with us, dial 1-877-932-9766. That's 1-877-932-9766. Mr. Fuller is here, and he's ready to answer or to respond to your comments. Stay right there. More to come on TalkTainmentRadio.com.
The hardest thing to do at times is to make changes in your routine. Don't let that hold you back.
Oh, wait a minute. They told us we had an oil shortage. Well, yeah, I guess in a way we are running out of oil.
Your opportunity is now to get up-to-the-minute information, great entertainment, and stimulating talk programs on your computer. Just log on to TalkTainmentRadio.com, click Listen Live to hear a program. TalkTainmentRadio.com can also be heard on your cell phone. Talktainment Radio. We go where you go.
Look out, automobiles. Here we come. Now that's radio. The world's greatest radio. Radio, the way it should be heard.
Chiropractic care is more than just making the pain disappear. It's about learning, understanding, and taking care of your body to improve your quality of life. Our Columbus, Ohio practice is equipped with modern chiropractic equipment and technology. Dr. Dee Reed, Divine Chiropractic and Wellness Center, located at 67 Parsons Avenue, Columbus, Ohio 43205, 614-222-0019. DivineChiropractic.com. Dr. Dee Reed, 614-222-0019.
The United Independent Compensatory Code System concept by Neely Fuller is considered as one of the substantial and basic books for understanding and effectively countering racism. Neely Fuller will turn upside down everything you've heard and everything you think you know about racism and how it works. Call area code 202-484-5461. 202-484-5461.
More than 2 years ago, the people of BP made a commitment to the Gulf, and every day since, we've worked hard to keep it. Today, the beaches and Gulf are open for everyone to enjoy. We've shared what we've learned so we can all produce energy more safely. BP's also committed to America. We support nearly 250,000 jobs and invest more here than anywhere else. We're working to fuel America for generations to come. Our commitment has never been stronger.
Years ago, identical twins were separated at birth. Chris Paul was destined for life with basketball. Cliff Paul was destined to become a State Farm agent. They shared one invaluable trait. They were both born to assist. Find an agent born to get you to a better state.
T-Mobile presents The Simple Choice.
With T-Mobile, I can walk out with the new Samsung Galaxy S4 for way less than at AT&T. We have a big family. T-Mobile.
Awesome. Well, now we'll all have the coolest phones in school. It almost makes up for the social stigma of living in a shoe. You live in a shoe.
Choose to spend less upfront at activation for your new Samsung Galaxy S4 at T-Mobile.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!
We've got the power.
Justice is better than racism.
This is the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com. Radio the way it should be heard, the world's greatest radio. I'm Brother Kahari, sitting in every week with Mr. Fuller. If you don't catch us at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, you can catch us at 10 p.m. tonight Eastern Standard Time. This show will be rebroadcast at 10 p.m. Or if you can't catch it even then, you can always catch it on the podcast. Podcasts are really, in the technical sense, they're called podcasts because they're duplications of what's already there, but really all they are is rebroadcast. And we have multiple rebroadcasts of shows that we've done, not only from today, but from last Tuesday, from each Wednesday, they are there. So all you have to do to get those podcasts is go to TalkTainmentRadio.com. That's TalkTainment radio.com. Click on programs. When you get to the webpage, you see something that says programs. Click on programs and type in or look for compensatory concept. Click that. Boom. There you go. There are what they call your downloads, your programs. That way you can listen to 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, those podcasts or those rebroadcasts that you didn't get a chance to hear. You can go there and listen to them. All right? That is, and then if you want to get Mr. Fuller's definitive works, you can go to producejustice.com. That's one big word, producejustice.com. Follow the prompts that takes you to order 2 of these incredible definitive works on racism. Mr. Fuller, we are joined by a caller. Caller, you're on the air with Mr. Neely Fuller. Go ahead.
You.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Patricia calling out of California, Los Angeles,
Mm-hmm.
and I always enjoy listening to Mr. Fuller and to you.
Thank you. Mm-hmm.
My question and comment is, Mr. Fuller was talking about how black people should sort of stay away from each other because there's so much
because they're so toxic, got a lot of poison and stuff like that. Mm-hmm.
But I don't think that's what we should be teaching, to stay away from each other. Power is when you unite. See, blacks are suffering right now. Some blacks, and a lot of people don't realize that. They don't see them. They don't go into those ghettos. They don't see them sleeping on streets and piling into their relatives' homes. You know, they're doubling up, tripling up, and they don't see that.
Yeah, it's really bad. Yeah.
Going in looking for employment, they wouldn't even open a door for him. They saw him standing out there and wouldn't open a door. He couldn't fill out an application. So you don't know what's going on out there. We don't need to be apart. We need to stick together. Now, the time we were supposed to be together when this black man, he said he's black, in the White House went up for that second election. We don't have any black leaders to tell us how to use our votes like these Hispanics and others. Not one black leader, because they've been bought as far as I'm concerned. We were not supposed to put that man back in the White He even told, he did an interview with Black Enterprises on the web, and the interviewer asked Obama, how do you respond to criticism that your administration hasn't done enough to support black businesses? Now, this is Obama's response. He says, my general view has been consistent throughout, which is that I want all businesses to succeed. I want all Americans to have opportunity. I'm not the president of black America. You see, I don't vote for somebody like that. I don't care if he's orange, okay? We need black people to unite. They need to be taught how to use that vote.
I'm not the president of Black America, but in October, I was selling it like I was the president of Black America.
That's right, and he gave this interview August 6, 2012.
Wow.
You see, so that's what I'm talking about. We don't, and the black leaders we have, the media is on. The Jews own the media, so they're not going to even let that get through. But we need, on a grassroots level, to teach our people not to vote. I mean, they've got these voter registration drives. We know how to vote, but we don't know who to vote for and how to use the vote. You see what I mean? So I don't think we should stay apart, Mr. Fuller. I don't think black people hate each other. I really don't. We're just under so much pressure right now, and so that's what I think. And I like to mention something Mr. Fuller mentioned last week, and I listened to the other podcast. He was talking about the the emails and the phone taps and all that.
Correct. We were discussing the NSA stuff.
I don't know if people realize that we've suffered a coup. Yes, a coup d'etat. See,
now, what do you mean when you say we suffered a coup?
When the government has been overthrown by the Obama administration, whoever his handlers are, which Farrakhan and people are saying are the Jews, our government has been overthrown because they have all the data on everybody. And anybody who wants to stand up, all they have to do is pull your record and say, hey, you did this and this, you're going to jail. So that means everybody's on lockdown. Not me. I haven't done anything wrong. They can tap me all day long, which I think they are.
Well, they tapping out. The best way to handle that is just to come out and say, hey, all right, here's my record. Here's 15 things I've done that I ain't too proud of, but I did. And repeat them over and over and over and over until people say, all right, we sick of hearing it. What you got to do is that you got to bring out from what's being hidden, put it out there so everybody can see it. That takes their power away from them. The only reason they got the power is that you give it to them.
That's right. They don't necessarily want the little guy. Who they have, they've got our Supreme Court justices. They've got them nailed. Whatever they've done, they can't even rule correctly now. They've got all of our senators, our representatives in Washington. See, those are the ones they want. They got these billionaires and millionaires. See, those are the ones that can make a difference. They don't necessarily care about, you messing around on your wives.
But this is not new. This was going on long before Barack Obama got there.
No, this is different though. This is much more powerful. This guy Obama. See, these Negroes were created. They weren't born. I say they because I don't categorize myself. It's a mentality. They were made from slavery, the whole mentality. And they've taken this Negro, Obama, and he's letting them use him to destroy this nation, to destroy black people and everybody in it. And then blacks still walking around talking about, I like him. See, that's the the intelligence of black people. They need to be educated, but I don't put them down. I don't say that they shouldn't speak to each other. We need each other. If we need each other more than we needed each other doing slavery right now. That's
a very, you brought up some very interesting points. Mr. Fuller, let me just get your thinking. She hadn't asked a specific question, but let me get your thinking on some of her comments if you don't have a problem commenting on them.
Yes, I have said repeatedly, and I still say, black people should stay away from each other. I call it minimizing conflict by minimizing unnecessary contact. And I still mean that, and I have that in my book. But I also say, and I've been emphasizing, and I think people keep missing this part, I say when we do make contact, have a constructive reason for doing so. Now, I think the lady will agree with that. Have a constructive reason, because black people, when they just milling around, all the poison comes to the surface. I've seen that happen over and over again. And on this program, you just said about some incident where black people just got together just to be getting together. That is extremely dangerous. It's been proven to be extremely dangerous, particularly where younger black people are concerned, because they are restless, they are angry and whatnot. And if they don't have an agenda when they come together, if nobody's told them what they have gotten together to do, and it's not very specific, you have to give black people very specific things to do. I mean, from the minute of their arrival, everybody has something very specific to do. Then you have a bunch of black people just milling around, eyeballing each other, and then start picking at each other, which is the next thing that starts happening. We can't deny that. And then we go at each other like you wouldn't believe. Then that's when the gunfire breaks out. It happens over and over and over and over and over again. We can't deny that. So the remedy, I'm always talking about remedies. Don't assemble, not even 3 black people should assemble anywhere on a street corner unless they have a specific constructive reason for doing so. Otherwise, when we see each other coming, we should go the other way. Because when we mingle with white people, we're very aware that we might be in danger. And that's when we show that we know how to act. If truth be told, we straighten up. But when we're around each other, we get real loose. And then we get real wild. So we have to keep a certain amount of distance from each other until we have something constructive to do or say. As a rule, I'm not talking about all the time and applies to all black people, but too many of us. This is why you have all this grief among black people. It's because we are toxic. The white supremacists have seen to that. We don't like other black people, and we won't admit it, and we don't like ourselves because there's not a whole lot to like with what we have been turned into, and we have to recognize that. But we can become likable people. We can begin to like ourselves, but you only like yourself when you're doing something constructive. We know that we're doing something that's deteriorating, that is nothing to like, and it shouldn't be liked. We shouldn't glorify stupidity. But we got to the place where we started doing that, starting about 30 years ago, right after the 1960s riots and whatnot, when we started getting a little bit of sense and sensibilities about how the world is run and what to do about it. And we started losing that in the 1970s because the white supremacists started steering that in that direction. So then we became hostile toward each other like we've never been before. I mean, just across the board. And that hostility is still there. And we have to get rid of that poison as fast as we possibly can. And the remedy for doing that is just make sure that when you pick up the phone to make contact with somebody that you know, that you have something constructive to say. If you don't have anything constructive to say, just simply don't make the call. And that way we become a more thoughtful people. It's not that I'm saying we should stay away from each other and just don't talk to each other and that would be carrying out the racist mission. I'm saying we should interact with each other. Every contact should be constructive.
Mm-hmm.
When you say something to a black person and you walk away from that black person, you should walk away feeling a little bit better, or a whole lot better, just from having made that contact, because it's been so constructive, so helpful to you or to them. And if everybody does that everywhere on the planet, most of our problems will be solved just by that alone. Just making sure that every contact has a constructive effect. And you do this in advance. You do this before you make the contact. You don't wait to make the contact and then start trying to feel in your way, because that might get all messed up. You have your plan about what you're going to say or do before you call Henry or Mary or Kia or whatever, and have it all planned out. And know that it's going to have a constructive effect. It's going to be something very effective in helping somebody do something that's going to be constructive. Either yourself or the other person or the two of you. I want to emphasize that over and over again. When I say no contact, no conflict, I mean unnecessary random contact, because that leads to conflict. The record shows that it does that. You get 500 and 600 black people together, and nobody's told them what they're there for. They don't have any kind of plan. That's a recipe for disaster, like you wouldn't believe. A whole bunch of ugly things are going to happen. Anybody who's ever been in that situation has seen that happen over and over again. And so that's the thing that I want to emphasize.
But Mr. Fuller, shouldn't we be educating them on why they are hating on each other? You see, I grew up in Chicago. I saw what went down. You see, we had a Jew town. We had people who ran our communities. Blacks may have had one or two businesses here and there. They were mainly run by Jews. And right after the 60s, like you say, the riots of the 60s, most of their businesses got burned out. But before they got burned out, they were the drug dealers of the community. They had blacks lined up, the doctors lined up, getting all of these cough syrups and all kinds of drugs that were illegally prescribed. I mean, I saw them. People I grew up with, I saw these doctors turn them into drug addicts. And then I lived near an area where there were other, whites. They started pumping in the drugs. See, this is why I don't blame black people. We've been set up. They started pumping in the drugs. I mean, people I knew never used drugs. We were a community. And they pumped them in until they broke the whole community down. Now, I was also there when they had the gentrification. Gentrification, they had it on the books for years, but they started implementing it in Chicago. Gentrification is where they want to move all the blacks to the suburbs and move the whites into the cities. And I even went to City Hall and asked them what they were doing, because they were tearing down homes in the black community, beautiful homes. And she said, once we get them out in the suburbs, we're going to cut transportation, public transportation, so they can't get back in the city. Well, it didn't work, Mr. Fuller. We still have blacks in the city. Whites didn't want to leave the suburbs. That's why Obama just announced last week he's going to force some gentrification. You see what I mean? So what they did in Chicago, they said, well, we can't get these Negroes out of the city. Let's just pump the drugs in.
Wait a minute. What do you mean he said he's going to force gentrification? Tell me, where did he make this statement?
I read it last week. I could read between the lines. He's saying, well, he wants more of the people who are more well off, into the cities, and then he's forcing it. He's talking about the big cities. See, I know what he's talking about.
Yeah, that would be gentrification. That's exactly bring in the gentry, as they call it, the white gentry. Yes.
Just type it in.
Code word. Mm-hmm. Yes, gentrification is a racial code word.
Oh yes. See, it didn't work in Chicago. They started about 10 years ago, 12 years ago, before I left, but it didn't work. So now they've pumped in the drugs. They are instigating gangs. All of this you see in Chicago, they're doing it, our government. Don't think black people are just doing this on their own. This stuff is set up and planned. And I was going around telling black people what the city was planning. Everybody was just laying back.
I tell you what, don't nobody go nowhere. This is exciting. We've got a lot more to cover, and we've got another caller joining us, and you can join us at 1-877. Good Lord, I forgot the number. Woo! I'll be back in just a minute. Y'all know the number. Just go to the website. Stay right there. This is the compensatory concept, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com.
The hardest thing to do at times is to make changes in your routine. Don't let that hold you back.
Oh, wait a minute. They told us we had it all sorted. Well, yeah, I guess in a way we are running out of oil.
Your opportunity is now to get up-to-the-minute information, great entertainment, and stimulating talk programs on your computer. Just log on to TalkTainmentRadio.com, click Listen Live to hear a program. TalkTainmentRadio.com can also be heard on your cell phone. Talktainment Radio. We go where you go.
Look out, automobiles. Here we come. Now that's radio. The world's greatest radio. Radio, the way it should be heard.
In 50 feet, turn left. Why are you driving so slowly?
After a few drinks, I'm taking it slow.
Well, you're not fooling the cop behind you.
What?
Get ready to pay in 0.1 miles.
Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Did you know that people born from 1945 through 1965 have the highest rates of hepatitis C, but most don't know they're infected? People can live for decades without symptoms, but over time, hepatitis C can cause serious health problems. If you were born during these years, the CDC now recommends that you get a blood test for hepatitis C, so talk to your doctor and find out if you have hepatitis C. It could save your life. No more.
Saving energy saves you money. Whether you switch to Energy Star light bulbs, install Energy Star appliances, or add extra insulation. Learn more at EnergySavers.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Energy and the Ad Council.
Peace Corps. Life is calling. How far will you go? To find out more, call 1-800-424-8580 or visit peacecorps.gov.
We've got the power.
Justice is better than racism.
This is the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com. Radio, the way it should be heard. All right, Mr. Fuller, we are joined by another young lady, and I wanted to get her comments before I go any further. Caller, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hi, this is Brenda from Chesapeake.
Chesapeake, Virginia.
Hi, Brother Phil. How you doing?
Is that Chesapeake, Virginia?
Yes, it is.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
First, I want to speak to my brother. How you doing, Brother Fuller?
I'm still learning.
Good. Okay. You are right on target. Right on key about everybody being responsible for what they say and what they do. If we take full responsibility for every word that we say and every action that we do, everything else will fall into place. And I was up late last night because I was just listening to a lot of things on TV and how all of this racism and all of this is happening on TV every day, all day. And this lady, I went on the internet, this lady named Elaine Brown. She's an activist, author.
You're talking about the one out of it used to be with the Black Panthers.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
She did this program on the New Age racism.
Mm-hmm.
It was awesome. I mean, it was so educational. She hit every key. She hit every incident. She hit everything. And a lot of people didn't want to hear a lot of things she was saying, but she was telling the truth. And if everybody would just go and listen or just go to YouTube, her name's Elaine Brown, activist, New Age racism, and just check that out. But I'm just enjoying this program because I learn so much every day with positive people, constructive people. And like Brother Fuller said that you should only call someone when you got something constructive to say or to get done. And that is so true. I learned that the hard way, and I thank him so much for all of his wisdom and knowledge. And his book is excellent.
Now that's not what the other caller's not saying that. Am I correct, caller? That's not exactly what you're saying. You're saying that now more than ever we need each other. Am I correct?
Yes.
And wait a minute, hold on. Let me go to the other sister. Isn't that what you're saying?
Yes, I'm saying that, and I'm trying to explain to Mr. Fuller not what's happening, but why it's happening. You see what I mean? That's what we need to correct. I mean, not pull us apart. I mean, and I was growing up, you could knock on your next door neighbor door to get a cup of sugar. I mean, we need each other. We don't need to be. That's why we're in the shape we're in with right now. We're not together. Look at the Hispanics. Obama's trying to break his neck to get them citizenship. You see, so we need each other, but we need to be informed. Now, once we're informed, all of that stuff you're talking about, Mr. Fuller, I think it would go away. All of that fighting, and I work with young people. I'm a teacher, so I know they're very aware of what's going on, and they take out their anger, like you said, with each other. But once they know what's going on, and we can help them, and they can get jobs and start their own businesses or whatever, then all of that riffraff will stop. But we don't talk to each other, and they're still, mistreating black people. Then nothing's that's not going to solve any problem. They need education. I don't understand why Minister Farrakhan is the only black man standing up. I mean, Jesse and all of them, they're doing nothing. They're scared. There's a reason why we haven't had another black leader since Martin Luther King. Those Negroes, I don't know what they're doing. But Farrakhan is the only one that would speak up and tell us why we're suffering. Everybody else is running scared, trying to pay their bills.
Mr. Fuller.
I've been over this 3 times, and it's phenomenal. I mean, I'm not disagreeing with the lady, and I get the impression that she thinks that I'm disagreeing with her. I don't think that she probably heard what I was saying, but I don't think she understands what I'm saying at all.
Okay, so make it plain.
I've tried to do it as I have said one thing.
Let's give him a chance to make it plain. Go ahead, Mr. Fuller.
I have said one thing, just one. I didn't say 10 or 12 things. I said one thing. Each and every black person on the planet, when they interact with one another, when they approach one another, when they say anything to one another, try to make everything that is said be constructive, be something that's helpful. HELPFUL, helpful, constructively helpful. That's all that I have said. I didn't say a dozen things.
That's right.
I said that formula, if that was used everywhere from here to the Congo, each and every minute of each and every day, every contact, when I mean by contact is physical contact, that means you're in the presence of, you're standing next to the person on the elevator or wherever, or in the warehouse, or in the store, or on the street, wherever you make contact. Contact meaning you said something to the person or you did something with the person. Make all of those contacts constructive, not destructive, constructive. Say something that's constructive. Think about what you're going to say before you say it, and make sure that it's going to be constructive. Otherwise, don't say anything until you figure out something to say that's constructive. Just stop and think about what I'm actually saying.
Yes.
Not what somebody thinks that I'm saying, what I'm really saying.
That's the basic.
And wait a minute. I just want to ask you this question. Do you understand what I just said?
Yes, I do. But we're saying, I agree with that. Those are the basics.
Okay, wait a minute. Slow down. Wait a minute. I'm trying to get an understanding here. What is it that I said that's incorrect?
No, I agree. But I'm saying that's the foundation. But once we educate our people, this is what I'm saying.
Well, wait a minute. I have some questions as you go. See, don't go from one statement to another. This is the codified process. You said once we educate our people. Now, when you make a contact with a person and you say something constructive, I have a question. Is that not a part of the education that you're talking about?
Yes, I can agree with that. And the reason why
Well, wait a minute. Don't talk so fast now. See,
I agree.
One thing that we have been doing is talking past each other. Wait a minute, ma'am, if you don't mind. One thing that we do, we talk at each other without talking to each other. Usually, and I have been guilty of this, a lot of times when we are talking to each other, or we think we're talking to each other, we're just waiting to talk. We're not listening at all. We're just waiting to talk, to get our voice in and let people know how we feel. That's an emotional response. That's not scientific at all. And it doesn't solve problems, which is why black people have, and I know about this because I've been to many a convention where everybody is talking, and they talk for hours on end, and nothing is ever resolved. And I tried to figure out why. It's because everybody's just waiting to be a star. But nobody's saying anything about what to do about anything.
Right, I understand what you're saying, Mr.
But everybody's talking about how they feel about things. And then you have all the drama that goes with it. And then after a 5-day convention, everybody's thoroughly exhausted. Thousands of dollars have been spent on airline tickets and all like this. And everybody just goes away, and the only thing that's been agreed on is to have another convention.
I just think we need see. The reason I'm interested in what you're doing is you're using words to change things. Now, I know the power of the spoken word. See, I studied metaphysics, so there's certain words I don't even use because I know the power of them. Not only do I not use them, I don't think the thoughts. So you're changing the whole system of what people should be saying and not saying. That's very powerful, to be teaching that. So that's why when you say white people control the world and they're so powerful, I said, now let's change that to say evil because of what they're doing. You see, so certain words I don't use, so I know what you're doing is very powerful, but I agree with what you're saying, but I think we need to educate the people why they're suffering. They don't know they're catching it every day. And then once we ease that information and educate our people and get a leader who can get them together, pool their money like Farrakhan wants to do so they can invest, we don't have to ask the white man for any money. You see, we can invest and start our own businesses. Until and now once that's done, then all that other stuff is going to end anyway. You see what I mean? What you're seeing and all this fighting and killing, they're in the black community with their spies planting them and causing all kinds of problems. They pump in.
I have a question.
They're doing everything. So I'm not blaming black people. I know there's a system that's causing this.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Mr. Fuller.
Would it be incorrect for each and every black person to become a leader of him or herself?
Yes.
No, I don't agree.
You don't believe that's possible?
No, the Jews have.
Wait a minute.
No.
I'm trying to make.
How are we going to be individual leaders of ourselves when we need to be educated? If we can't all speak to each other, if we're all 10 million of us are all spread out everywhere, 30 million, how can we communicate? We need and Farrakhan is that leader. And the media is doing everything they can to shut him down, not give him any press except bad press. You see what I mean? And we don't have any black people standing behind him, black men.
Well, I'm just trying to get an understanding. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. You're moving too fast, ma'am. You're moving too fast. You're mentioning leader. Okay. What does a leader do? In my understanding, a leader teaches each and every individual whom he or she is leading to lead him or herself. Is this correct? Or does that person just follow that person around all day long, 24/7? I mean, waiting to be given instructions on how to catch the bus.
No, that's if you want to.
Well, I'm just trying to get a picture in my. Wait a minute, ma'am. I'm trying to get a picture in my mind of what a leader does.
You're talking about in the functional sense. That's what you're saying.
How can you be a leader if it's not functional? See, we have to be very careful about the words that we use, and just keep talking. I mean, all of us can talk fast, and we got in the habit of doing
for
that.
example, I don't want. Let's not get heated here.
Yes.
What we're doing is have. I know. We're starting to get a little heated. Let's have a. Hold on. Let's have a civil interaction.
Yes.
It don't take much for us.
Mr. Fuller's from the day where you couldn't even look a white man in the face. You had to walk by him and drop your head. See,
That's true.
I'm trying to bring Mr. Fuller up. Mr. Fuller, you from the whole day where you couldn't even look. They would hang you if you even looked in their eyes. So see, you got to ease up a little bit, Mr. Fuller. It's a new. You got to learn now because I know the era you're from. They would lynch you. You back from the? Are you born in the 30s?
Actually, what that would do is give you a much better understanding.
No.
Yeah, wait. I'm gonna tell you why it would. Because you could see the whole picture. You could. Yes, you could. You could see. You could. Wait a minute. Hold on. Now, hold on. Wait a minute. Now, I've laid back and let you talk. Now, you chill for a minute. Just chill.
Sorry.
Just chill. Praise the Lord. Just chill. Here's what I mean. He's born in 1930 or whatever, 1920, whatever, like my mother. That means that he can see what happened then and know it. He can see what happened here, what happened here, what happened here, what's happening here. As a matter of fact, he has a whole understanding, a much greater understanding of someone living right now, much greater. That's why when somebody like when he speaks, you better listen.
That's right.
But I hear
that's the power. That's the power of wisdom. That's what you're hearing here. Wisdom and understanding. No, I don't see fear.
I do. I sense the fear. A lot of things he say, how he glorifies.
There's no fear. There's no fear in this. There's no fear. What there is that what we want to do is run out and commit suicide. And think, wait a minute, yes we are. We're running out and committing suicide, running up and down the hill trying to do a revolution like Castro, and we're going to get wiped out. What this man is
get wiped out sitting on your behind, not doing anything.
I would agree with that, but that's not what he's saying. What he's giving you is a constructive approach to solve problems.
Right.
And I think what we need to do is that when somebody has organized a way of thinking, an organized, systematic way of thinking that will achieve results, one of the things that black people have got to do is be patient enough to hear it and then think about it, analyze it, and then go test it.
Yeah,
that's how you see.
Anymore. We don't have any
yes,
more
we do.
Anymore. We got to get up and start moving.
And do what? Whoa. Good point. You get up and move where? Where we moving? Wait a minute. Hold on. Where we moving? Which direction? Go ahead.
Support Farrakhan, who is a leader who's trying to get black people to be self-sufficient, to own their own businesses, so we don't have to beg anybody for anything. Follow him.
Okay, we got that message. Now, let me allow Mr. Fuller to finish his point. And then what I want you to do, because I really love you, I appreciate the way you talk and all that. I want you to then that's okay. Mr. Fuller likes that, and so do I. But what I want you to do is let him, because we got about 2 minutes. I want him to at least be able to finish where he was going. Mr. Fuller, go ahead, please.
I haven't disagreed with anything that the lady said, but she thinks that I'm disagreeing with her. I haven't she can't point out anything where I disagreed with what she said. She said we should make contact with each other. And I said we should make contact with each other. And I said you should make all the contacts constructive. No destructive contacts. Like robbing somebody. That's a destructive contact. Like trying to get in touch with your local drug dealer so you can buy some drugs, or shoot the drug dealer for not giving you the drugs that you wanted the last time you saw him. That's destructive contact. Like calling somebody a name, calling somebody's grandmother a B word, the B word, they say, on the bus stop. That's non-constructive contact. That's what I'm talking about. And I don't think anyone who thinks about it for 2 or 3 seconds would disagree with that. But I get the impression that the lady is saying that what I'm saying is something that shouldn't be done. Then that leaves, well, what do you do? I mean, what is if you don't make constructive contacts, that leaves you one thing, make a non-constructive contact.
Well, all it means, Mr. Fuller, And guess is that we're going to have to do part 2 because we run up against the clock. Thank you so much, Mr. Fuller. Thank you.
Have a great
and
day.
thank you, callers. I appreciate all of you. Thanks for listening to The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller. Heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio.
The most important question in all racial matters is why. One should always ask it.
Radio, the way it should be heard.
You got the power. Radio, the way it should be heard.